I haven't done one of these video log type things in a while, and I actually wanted to do one on eating disorders and binge eating. This got sparked from a girl in our group posted in the MPS group something about dealing with, being away from the gym a little bit and having to deal with some form of what she believed may have been an eating disorder. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to read the that's sort of the background. I'm going to read the reply that we gave. So yeah, I'll read it word for word, and then I'll talk about a few other things that I want to go over. Eating disorders are a lot more common than people think. Both guys and girls are affected by them. I used to be anorexic and got hit hard by binge eating back in 2011. And I think one of the biggest issues is that people think they are the only ones who get hit by eating disorders, or they feel unique and scared to ask for help. You can almost guarantee that someone has been in a situation very similar to yours and that they found a way out of it. For me, the biggest protective factor for getting through it was to not look at eating with a success/failure mindset. Once I got past the anorexic stage and into macro tracking, I would track for a couple of days, then go off the plan for a certain meal and feel like I've completely wrecked the diet and no food was safe. Although the binge is destructive, I think what is more destructive is a mindset that the binge has made you a failure and there is no point in continuing. That's a dangerous mindset, which is far worse than a single binge. That's a roundabout way of saying that you should look at any kind of progress as good progress. If that means you were previously overshooting your macros every 3 to 4 days and now at a point where it's more like once a month, then that is progress. And so long as you put one foot in front of the other, you'll eventually get there. It takes time to change a mindset, which many build up over years. So that was a reply to what she was getting at. And then there's a few other things that I want to go over in this video specifically. The first one is, how do I classify an eating disorder versus just overeating? Not everyone that's overweight or who overeats necessarily has an eating disorder. Otherwise, majority of the population would have eating disorders, which isn't really the case. The way I look at whether or not it's leading into an eating disorder or maybe an eating disorder is if you punish yourself after it. So if you had a day where, let's say you had 200 calories left to hit for dinner, and you went ahead and ate 1,000 calories for dinner, or you were out with family and you decided to eat with them, which is quite normal, and it's doable, but you then felt like you had to punish yourself in the following day. And when I say punish yourself, I don't mean just, pull macros from the following day. That's a healthy mindset. What I mean is that you feel guilty and you feel like, you've done something wrong. And to me, that's how I would classify whether or not it's just purely, well, I overate. Because people can do that, and most people will. They'll say, well, I went over my food today, big whoop. Wake up the next day, they'll feel fine. That's not an eating disorder, that's just overeating. An eating disorder is if you feel like in some way, I've got to do more cardio, or, I've got to fast for the whole day, or there's some form of punishment that follows that. That's how I would classify it. And I think one of the biggest issues is people will view food as bad, and this is how a lot of eating disorders start. If you're viewing food as bad, the big problem with that is food is necessary. We need food. If you make food an enemy, so if you put food on a pedestal and you say that food's evil, and you'll have you'll fast and you'll eat food and then you'll purge. And just to put this in context, this is more so referring to anorexics, anorexia nervosa. There's a difference between just anorexic and anorexia nervosa, but different video. This isn't talking too much to the guys on the other end of the spectrum with bigorexia and muscle dysmorphia. This is more so for, and I'm not just saying females, guys can be anorexic too. I was. Yeah, food is necessary. If you make food the enemy, you're gonna lose. It's that simple. So that's one of the biggest issues with it, is people put food on a pedestal and say that food is evil. If I eat food, I have to get rid of it, and they'll force themselves to throw up and things like that. Food's necessary. We need food. It's the way you go about getting that food, and whether or not you can have control over it. And that's one of the biggest issues. How do you deal with it? One of my coaches, Alberto Nunez, he has probably my favorite line. And this works for most people, and I think it's probably the best way to go about it for the vast majority, is take an amnesia pill. So forget about it. You had a binge, get back on the plan the following day. Too many people, that's this guilt trip, the guilt feeling, and I have to punish myself, and it's, I'm bad and I've screwed the plan up. Don't have that mindset. That leads to failure. It will lead you to the next day where you punish yourself and you'll fast all morning and, I've been such a bad person, I won't eat anything. And then they'll get to dinner and then same thing. They'll eat and they'll eat and they'll eat because they're hungry. And it's a human feeling. We get hungry. And a lot of people can't classify or distinguish hunger from, that's a nice looking cake, I'm going to have that. And then the cycle just keeps going. So I would be careful with the whole punishing yourself the following day. Now, what I will have some people do, and this is, I think, in my opinion, a healthy way of dealing with situations where, like, if you're going out with your family, they're having dinner, you're the one that's going to sit there like, well, I've eaten my macros, I'm done, I can't enjoy a meal with you guys. And an easier way to go about that is have the meal, track it, then pull the macros from the following day. If it's a once-off and you're in your off-season, don't even worry about it. I wouldn't stress that. It's 200 calories, which I really don't think is going to affect you. But for the people who are prepping or who want to hit their numbers more on point, just pull the macros from the following day. If you went over 20 carbs, let's say 50 carbs, 10 fat, and 20 protein, and that lets you have a nice meal with your family, take those from the following day. Your macros don't reset at midnight. We can work on a continuum. I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this. There's a few people that shared their stories. I'm not going to mention any of them in this video. I don't think that's right. But I just wanted to sort of classify that. A lot of people will just say if people are overeating, it's an eating disorder. I don't think that's the case. I think it's there needs to be a distinguish between overeating versus eating disorder. I'm going to link a video in the description by Corey Pross. I'm probably pronouncing her name wrong. I highly recommend everyone watch that. That's one of the best 30 minutes you'll probably spend watching in your life. Watch that. There's another video that I'll post underneath it from Brooke Erickson, as well as one from Lane Norton about eating through the holidays. So I suggest you guys watch those, and I hope you guys have found this at least somewhat useful. I think it's a topic that needs to be mentioned because there's a lot of grey area with it. People are like, well, did that count as a binge? Is that an eating disorder? So on and so forth. So yeah, I hope you guys get something from this, and I suggest watching those videos in the description.